All right, everybody, welcome back to another Surfside Recovery podcast. My name is Brian Licata, alongside the one and only DJ Brown. And Ian is completely just breaking all my stuff.
Not yet.
So we want to thank everyone, I guess, first and foremost, for the very successful Hustle for Henny race. So it went off really without a hitch. We finally got good weather. It was raining the past 2 years. So we got some really, really good weather for that. So thank you all for your support, your donations, yada, 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 yada. So DJ.
So,
Word.
first off, if somebody needs help, let us know. We will absolutely be able to help, whether that's getting someone into treatment, providing advice, consultation, whatever we can do to be helpful. Definitely get a hold of us at any of our contact stuff below. Brian will flash that right on the bottom of the screen now. Also, if you get any sort of value out of this, please share it on your Facebook or whatever way you share social things these days. So today we have a local celebrity on.
What two?
Part of the notorious heavyweight crew, aka the Bad Friends crew.
Yes.
AKA the Ocean City Troublemakers.
Yes, this is true. All true.
So DJ is great. Brian, do you have anything you want to say before we let DJ?
What, like
let him wild? Let him run wild.
As far as the intro goes?
Yeah.
No, I have some questions that I've prepared.
Oh, good.
But they're on my phone, so I don't know if I'm going to remember them.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I have questions.
Okay.
So,
Thanks for the intro.
you're welcome.
Solid.
So, first off, why don't you give us like a 5-minute...
Whoa. 5 minutes way too long.
Too long?
Yeah. Maybe like 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Why don't you give us a
that sounds
30-second what it was like, what happened, what it's like now?
Okay.
Time's
My
almost
name-
up.
All right. My name is DJ. I was born and raised here in Summers Point. What it was like, I was kind of just talking about it, man, like being back in treatment. And you know, it seems like just yesterday when you would come in and speak, and you know, one of the first guys I heard, you know, really carry the message to me. And being in and out of treatment, not being able to get this thing, man, drinking and getting high for 15, 16 years straight. And then
How old are you now?
32.
32.
32, so from the time I was 13 to 28, using constantly, man. And yeah, man, it's sometimes like emotional when I really like think about it, and when I look back on it and how far I've came, like sitting here with you guys a few years later and like spending a year working at Surfside, almost 2 years up in New Hampshire, like it's surreal. You know, so I mean, what it's like now, man, like it's really beyond my wildest dreams. Like I said, I do like get emotional when I really think about it, because sometimes it seems like a dream. Like it's beyond my wildest dreams, man. That's all I can really say.
And you're like pretty connected with your family again. I know your parents live kind of down.
Yeah, my
around
parents
back. Your aunt lives
live
up the
right in
street.
Summers Point. My aunt lives 5 houses that way. You know, I've been blessed to have, you know, both of my parents support me, my sister, aunts, uncles, cousins. You know, for the most part, like everyone knows I'm in recovery. You know, anonymity with me, like, you know, is maybe not so, I don't want to say it's not dear to me.
Well, now it's not. You're going on the podcast.
Well,
It's
I'm on the
definitely not for
podcast.
either
No,
one
but
of
I'm
us
saying
either.
like with like Instagram now, but like I've been like very open over like when I first got like my 1 year, I posted it on Instagram thinking like, you know, a lot of it was probably like self-seeking. But
Ladies,
then,
I'm
like,
free.
Yeah, look, like I got
It's
a year,
over,
like
I'm
I'm
ready.
good
Take a look
now.
at me now.
Yeah. I had like long dreadlocks. I was living up in New Hampshire, but like, you know, like really like I've seen like posts like that actually like be able to help people, and people reach out like, you know, needing help for family members, husbands, wives, all that shit. So, can I curse on here?
Yeah.
Okay, because I just did.
Oh, did you? I didn't even notice.
Well, shit's a curse word. But I live, I live back in the area that I drank and got high in for, more than half my life.
Yeah, see, that was one of the questions that I was going to have for you.
Okay.
Because you went to rehab down here, right?
I did, yep.
And then went up north to New Hampshire, and you were there for what, like 2 years?
20 months, a little less than 2 years, yep.
So what was that like? Because I have a couple friends who have moved after, past a year of being sober. And they always say like that process is really difficult, like trying to find like a new network and a new group of people and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I was talking with someone about that recently, about like big life changes in sobriety.
And we've talked about that on this podcast a couple times.
We have, yeah.
Yeah, and like for me, I moved up to New Hampshire when I had 20 days sober.
Right.
So like it was like big changes like right off the jump. And then I moved back down here. Like I said, I got. But
how was the move? I think that's really his question. Is
the move back down
you
here.
got sober there, and it was like your crew, and then you moved back down.
Yeah, I had a solid network up there. I mean, I was up there, like I said, almost 2 years, and I just like. I had that feeling in my I kind of had to like follow my heart, man. It sounds, maybe like a little cliche, but like I was really just like. Searching for the answer if I should like move back down here. Like, I have family down here.
Right.
A lot of like friends, some in recovery, some who aren't, who I, stayed close with over the years. And the time just felt right, man. Like there was something drawing me back here. I love the ocean. I love South Jersey. People are like, dude, why would you move back to New Jersey?
It's great down here.
But yeah, there's just something about it down here, man. And like one of the things I knew I had when I moved back down here was guys and friends in recovery. Like one of my college roommates had 3 years probably at that time. He's, I guess, coming up on 4, coming up on or Rob S. Shit. But yeah,
I'll cut it out.
Yeah, you can cut it out.
Just bleep it.
But he was down here, and I had him and some other guys he was linking up with at the time who I kind of knew, some mutual friends, and I knew I would move back home with family support, a solid network. I knew all the homies up in New Hampshire. If I needed them for anything, I could call them. I had a sponsor up there I was working with. I knew I had to get on it when I got down here, keep my foot on the gas, get sponsees, and it just felt right. And then I linked up with you. I remember coming back down here, and I interviewed with you, and it was like that time when I was still like searching for the answers. I remember being in the gym one night in New Hampshire. I was listening to Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, and it said like follow your heart, and it just like it just like I'm like, that's it. Like I need to follow my heart. Like if God is is like they say, like deep within every man, woman, and child, right? So like the fundamental idea of God or whatever, but I like had that feeling in my gut, and I just went with it, and it's been beautiful, man. I've been down here since last April, so about 1.5 years, and I've been able to do like some marvelous things with like most importantly like my recovery. I've helped a lot of people have helped me. I've traveled, stayed close with family, made some awesome friends and friendships, and it's been beautiful, man.
Your move, I want to point this out. So we talk about this fairly often on this podcast, this idea of like getting sober, moving, because I always am saying like the ideal spot is somewhere between an hour and 4 hours away from home. So you can still like get home and visit and do that. And obviously New Hampshire's farther than that. But it is important to note that when you moved back here, like what I know is that, you'd been coming down and visiting, and you'd been when you were coming down, you were like going to meetings, you were linking up with these people that you
course.
knew were sober.
Yep.
So before you made the move, you were already creating a network down here where in a lot of circumstances, people go somewhere, they get sober, and then one day they're just like, I'm moving home, and they go home. And they don't have that network.
They don't have
they,
the network,
they haven't. They don't know where the meetings are. They don't. When the few times that maybe they have gone home to visit family or parents or holidays or whatever, they don't go to any local meetings. They don't introduce themselves. They don't know anybody. Which is, so it's a very different set of circumstances than like you went somewhere, got sober, and then just moved home.
Of
like
course.
you built a network, and
Yeah.
you also were trying to line a job up in the recovery space.
Of course.
Which is also important to know. You'd been working in the recovery space in New Hampshire, and then you wanted to do the same thing down here, so you were applying to jobs in that space down here.
How did you two meet each other?
So I was yelling, AK doing a group at a local facility about 12-step recovery and kind of ranting and raving and getting people wound up. Because sometimes like people who are in the treatment center want to tell me how it is and how they're going to stay sober. And I just, like, I'm the one going.
Because we know. You
yeah,
don't know.
like you've been there 4 times. So it's like you think, you think you're an expert in staying sober. And like, I'm the guy going home at night. So whatever, we were in a heated thing. And you got connected with Tim somehow.
I came up to you after you spoke one night with Nick G. Nick G and I were in treatment together.
Correct.
We came up to you. He ended up coming to Surfside. I didn't.
That's right. He was in with Colin. With
Colin, Nick G.
Yeah.
Those are my boys, man. And I wanted to, I was looking into sober. It was really the first time I ever thought about doing some type of extended care. And, when the way I remember you used to carry them, like it was one of the first messages that really started to resonate with me. And I really started to like think differently about this whole thing and think like maybe I need to actually do something when I leave here. Like if I really want to stay sober, maybe I need to go to some type of
and then
treatment.
you left with a girl.
I did. I got kicked. I got kicked out of there. And I went out and shot 7 bags in my arm and overdosed that same day. Against my own will,
Sure.
because and it's interesting because like that was my second time back there in I think a 4 or 5 month span, and each time I would go, man, I was like, I had the idea like this is it, I'm gonna stay sober this time, but with no connection to higher power, program, anything like that. Like I was beat, and I had that overdose. I went back into treatment the next day and put 20 days together in a treatment center, and then went up to New Hampshire. But when we linked up, I went up to New Hampshire. I was working in treatment, and I think I had probably like a year and a half, and I remember texting you. I remember exactly where I was the day I texted you and Tim, and when I got out of that treatment center, I asked you to sponsor me. That's how I linked up with Tim. You said, hey, I can't rent it. Why don't you link up with this guy? I think he'd be good for you. And Tim tried to help me that summer, and I just...
You were down here?
I was down here.
Got it.
This was the summer of 2016. I was down here.
Got it.
And, and they were trying to help me out a little bit. Tim bought me my first big book. I'm forever grateful for that. But like at the time, like I couldn't stop drinking and I couldn't stop getting high. So I wasn't there yet. But like looking back on that, man, like those little things like played a role in my journey. I'm forever grateful for you guys, man. I remember you mentioned a Fish concert. I remember being in RCA and you saying like, hey, like I go to Fish concerts, and I've never been like a huge Fish guy, but just knowing that someone, knowing what goes on at Fish concerts and thinking like, how could a human being go to one of those shows and stay so? I'm like that. It blew my mind. Like these
are some. We were at this concert together this summer.
Yeah.
This was a Fish concert from Camden this summer.
And dude, it's awesome, man. Like I love going to shows, but I remember that was one of the things. Like, that really like blew my mind, because I thought like my whole life was gonna have to change. Like anything I ever did for fun, sporting events, concerts, like
We should
things
put
I
DJ
love.
in the documentary.
Oh yeah, sure.
We're doing a
Yeah.
documentary, just so everyone knows.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, what you guys are doing, man, like I still, I love what Surfside represents, and just the whole, like there's a lot of depth and weight behind the program, and like this type of stuff. Man, there's not like, enough shit out there that really, holds depth and weight when it comes to like recovery. Because like I think about like my move and everything we're talking about, and I was always told it by certain people in treatment centers. I'm not saying like it was the treatment center's like goal
Sure.
to get me to believe this, but I always thought like, I had to like stay in a room for the rest of my life if I wanted to stay sober. They're like people, places, and things. You have to, and to a certain extent, like I understand.
Yeah, like we would not recommend someone who's 30 days sober get out of treatment and go on fish tour.
Yeah, of course not.
For the record.
And I remember I had 9 months sober. I went to my friend's wedding and stayed for the reception and all that. And they were like going out afterwards to hang out. And I was like, hey, like I'm going home. I was like, I'm just not there yet. I like, and that was at 9 months, So like at that point I hadn't been to any shows, any like real, like real events with drinking. Like that was like my first one,
Sure.
being at a wedding, being around drinking. And that was in 9 months, and I still like I remember going home that night, and being real humble, just like, yo, I'm not there yet,
Yeah, and it's like not even fun. Like I know like certain family parties that I go to, like when all my cousins start playing flip cup, I'm like,
yeah, it's just like
I just don't.
Deuces.
It's just I wanna
yeah,
go
like
home,
am I gonna put
you know?
water
When
in the
that's-
cup and be like, no,
Yeah,
it's
and
just
I'm
not
just
the
rolling
same.
out.
And that's
yeah,
how I
I'm
am
out.
at concerts. Like, and I say it all the time. Like I did. What did I do? 11 fish concerts this summer,
It's excessive, but okay.
or 9?
Still excessive,
Yeah.
but okay.
I think I did 11, maybe
Excessive.
9, something like that, a bunch. And I always, I don't want to be up
He's a drug
front.
addict. he's an addict.
excessive.
to the
I don't
core.
want to be up front. I don't want to be, I want my space. I want to be towards the back. I find it super uncomfortable. Like even, like we're going to go to MSG over like the New Year's shows. And like, I always go to the very third floor. It's called the Chase Bridge. There's plenty of room. I don't want to be crammed up against people like who are spilling beers on me.
Yeah,
I
of
don't
course
want
not like
people
that either.
blowing smoke in my face. Like, and I also talk about a lot like yeah, the fish concerts, the parking lot scene is like, same as like old Grateful Dead shows, like a lot of drugs, a lot of partying.
Right.
But I don't do that stuff. I go in, and then I leave, right? It's like when I was using, I would go like 7 hours early.
Of course,
Maybe
yeah.
make it into the show, maybe not make it into the show, but I was
didn't
there.
matter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
was
didn't
there.
matter.
I remember there was a Jones Beach fish concert where I just fell asleep at the car, and then they like put me in the trunk, and we left. That's all I really remember the whole thing.
What was the concert in Philly
Which
that,
one?
that your mom was talking about when you got
I used
arrested?
to go see the Disco Biscuits a lot in Philly.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
at the Electric Factory,
Just
probably.
curious.
I used to see the Disco Biscuits a lot in Philly. But yeah, it's like, and I think there's like, like the literature, the 12-step literature talks about like you can go anywhere and do anything if you have good reason. But it also talks about in other pieces of the literature, like we need to have tact and common sense, and like I don't belong in that parking lot.
Of course not.
Like I'm very well aware of like who I am. I'm very well aware of my illness. And I think that, a lot of people, especially in early recovery, they get very cocky, right? Like it talks about like we're not cocky or are we afraid, and I think a lot of people get cocky, like, oh, well, I'll be fine. I'll be good. Like I can hang out, like, oh, I'll drink a soda and everyone else can drink a beer. Like, do I even know people in like early recovery who've played like flip cup with water? Like that's dumb.
It is.
That's
It
like
is.
that's like
Stupid, yeah,
that
it's
is like
dumb,
as
yeah.
dumb as you can be. Like, so I think there's this really clear balance of being able to like go and do these things and have fun and and do it with sober people versus like I wouldn't go to a fish show with like a bunch of people who are getting high.
Of course not.
Like I go with sober people all the time.
Yeah, and I think like there's like a certain level of comfort I have when I go to like if I'm going to an Eagles game with my father. Like when I go there, like, and I see people drinking, like I'm not like, it doesn't make me like uncomfortable, you know, like, and this is at like, I remember being at games with my father where like I would be out of my mind and he would just be like, dude, like what is wrong with you, man? Like, you know, on like bunch of Xanax, drinking, back and forth to the bathroom to snort something.
When was your first like sober football game?
Probably, I mean, when I moved back down here, so last September I went to opening day. I went to three games last year.
So that's my point,
so
though, right? Like,
I had a good.
You had some time sober.
I was coming up on 2 years.
2 years.
I was coming up on 2. I think it was probably, you know, so I September 9th of last year I celebrated 2 years. And it was like a week before that. So I was coming up on 2.
And that's kind of my point is like,
yeah, I wasn't there yet. And like, I was very like, I think like realistic when it came to like I said, at 9 months, like I knew like if my friends were going out to hang out after, like there was just no point of me being there.
Yeah.
You know, it was 12 o'clock at night after the wedding. A lot of my like childhood friends who aren't in recovery, they were like going to drink and hang out. And there was just no point of me being there.
So can we shift gears a bit?
Sure, please.
Can we talk about the Bad Friends crew?
The Bad Friends crew,
What's
yes.
the deal?
So the Bad Friends crew, when you were talking...
You guys have good stickers.
We do. We have
really
fire merch. Hit me up for the merch, dude.
The Dunkin' Donuts.
And I work in the merch field now, so
I really like the Dunkin' Donuts Bad Friends
I think
sticker.
I got some at the house. I'll get you
whoever
get you
the graphic designer is really nice.
Yeah,
too.
so that's my friend
really,
Nick.
Really good.
He just celebrated 8 years. And you were talking, Nick, yes, heavy hitter. But when I was moving down here, building that network, I moved in with a guy who 4 months prior to me moving down here, he celebrated 10 years.
Billy the kid?
Yes.
Billy is the president of Ocean City.
Ocean City. He is.
Literally, Billy knows everybody.
He is.
I don't even have to say his last name. If you know Billy from Ocean City, you know. If you know Billy from Ocean City, share this podcast.
Yes, he is
going
to be the mayor
out.
someday, man.
We should have him on for sure.
He should be famous, man. He's a peculiar,
I don't know him like that. When
peculiar
you
guy.
Talk to him?
But when like I said, 4 months prior to me moving down here, I came down to the Coach, famous Stagecoach group, and I watched him celebrate 10 years, man. So like I really knew what I was getting myself into moving to, like I knew the type of guys I was going to surround myself with.
Right. Yeah, it's important.
You know, like building that network was like, it was here, you know, it was here. And all I had to do was like tap into it. You know, so like you were saying about people moving, moving back home. The Bad Friends crew. Yeah. So I had like, you know, so when I moved down here with Billy, my friend Nick, who was a childhood friend, I hadn't seen him in a long time.
Is he a good friend or a bad friend?
On any given day, it depends. But the bad, like it started with, you know, his friend used to say like, dude, you're a bad friend. Like, just like, you know, kind of like busting balls. And his friend came to the mountain one time, they were snowboarding and had a sticker. It said, Nick, I won't say his last name. Nick T is a bad friend. And
on his helmet
on his snowboard helmet, like he got like a sticker, like a one sticker
like
made. It wasn't like a line of stickers,
like
a one-off. And I think it just like stuck with Nick. He's like, that's it, you know, like the Bad Friends crew. And it's just like, you know, it's a group of guys who I linked with. A lot of those guys are up in like the Pennsylvania area, Bucks County.
Are they Shoobies?
Levittown. They're Shoobies. They're
interesting.
Slocals. Slocals are summer locals. They spend a lot of time down here in the summer, but they are, I don't know. I feel like they've earned their spot. I mean, they all surf taxes? And they do not. So they haven't earned their spot.
You're beat.
I guess you're right. But they just rip, man. They snowboard, skate, surf, and like most importantly, man, like a lot of guys in that group like have a lot of time sober. 8 years, 6 years, 3. You know, like just guys with time in the program who still work the program, who are most importantly like serious about staying sober. A lot of the people I surround myself with, like, dude, I have a lot of fun. I don't take myself too serious, but like the people I do surround myself with are, you know, serious about staying sober, man. And like linking with those guys, they just showed me like a whole nother side and like almost like another level to recovery, you know. Some of the snowboard trips I took last year, man, like, and I was snowboarding a lot when I was up in New Hampshire. But last winter was like, I took a Vermont trip and 2 New Hampshire trips, and they were just like, it just showed me like the possibilities of like the shit that can come if you stay sober.
And you went on a surf trip recently too, right?
Yeah, I was in Nicaragua back in August. You know, and stuff like that, man. Like, it just like,
when you're sitting in rehab, you can't imagine that.
Yeah, like, it just
happen.
doesn't seem like, and that's in like, you know, 3 years, man, you know, and like, and I, you know, I'll never like downplay like, you know, the work I put in, man, but like, you know, that's God, man. Like, I got that willingness from God, you know, because I don't have that, you know, like me, like, you know, like, I texted Andy something this morning, you know, just like a few little things. I'm like, yo, text your mom today, say, you know, tell her to have a good day. Just like that. And he's like, yo, like, I was like, help someone, don't, you know, ask to be recognized. He's like, oh, that sounds like a normal day for me. And I said back, I sent this like paragraph back from with just like, I'm like, yo, this is a normal day for me. And I was talking about like being in like, you know, Madison Hotel on like MLK Boulevard in Atlantic City, like smoking crack with like a 49-year-old heroin addict, like, just like, I'm like, that used to be like the norm, and that's like, you know, real shit, and like what I, you know, came from. So like, it really is mind-blowing to think like when I was down in Nicaragua, man, like I just would look around and be like, this is, it's just so humbling, man. And it just like, you know, I hear people say like, oh, if we got what we deserved, we would, you know, we probably wouldn't be getting all this, man. Like, it's, I've got, you know, God has graced me with a lot. So the bad, like, back to like the Bad Friends crew, man. It's just like a solid group of young guys who are serious about recovery, serious about AA, you know, like guys who like still work the program and still sponsor guys and help others and go to meetings, take commitments, like, you know, and like really do this shit, man. That's like one thing, like I tell guys I work with and stuff, and I think they like see it over time, but like, I'm like, yo, when I'm on your ass, like I'm not, you know, doing it for fun. Like, I'm like, I really like live this lifestyle out of like this little bubble, you know, like I am able to show up for my family and, you know, and for friends and like, you know, really like I'd like to think, man, I try my best. I fail all the time, but like I'm able to live a very full life today with my job and traveling and surfing, and I'm in 2 hockey leagues. You know, so it's just like I've been able to do some really cool shit from like putting God and AA first, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's important to do a bunch of different stuff like that. You know, I'm rarely ever not doing anything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
How's the cold brew?
It's amazing. It's award winning.
Thank you.
You should start bottling your own. And
should I?
Sound like, yeah. Let's
put
get rich.
Scott and Goji out of business.
I would like to give input, but I wasn't offered a cup.
Oh, you come on, get out of here.
He said, "Hey DJ, do you want some coffee?"
He did specifically say that.
I wasn't asked.
You want to sip?
Nah,
You've
dude,
had my coffee. You've had the coffee.
I've never had the cold brew that you made.
Out of here.
I haven't.
There's definitely some pep in my step.
See, I gotta wait a week before I can drink
next
it.
Yeah, I'm like,
episode,
bring
we'll
all
get you
sweat.
some nitro cold brew. We'll take even a step higher.
All right, so closing remarks. We have a couple interesting guests coming up next. A good friend of mine, Eliza, is coming on the podcast next week, and a former
First girl on the podcast.
Well, besides your mother, but yes, first non-family.
Sure.
She helped me get sober a bunch of times, so I'm excited to have her down. And then the week after that, I think it's the week after that, is a former teacher and kind of like a mentor to me. He's a guy who kind of got me into all this video stuff.
Yeah.
He has a motivational speaking group, his own podcast. That one's going to be pretty killer too. So
Beautiful.
Thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
As always, get a hold of us if you need help. I mean, it's that simple. I think you don't have to be helpless. You don't have to do this thing alone. If you're a family member struggling with your loved one, there's always possibilities for hope, for sure.
You got anything else you want to say?
No, I appreciate you guys having me out. And yeah, there's always possibilities for hope, man. Like, this shit really is possible. You know, like I said, I didn't believe it. You know, but if you tap into the right resources, man, like, the help is there. You know, you just gotta want it.
Cool. Peace.
Peace.